Test, 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 test. Hello there. What is going on, YouTubers? Oh, frequent viewers, subscribers, and patrons. It's the first of the first of April, year 2026, at Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time / Sydney time and local Peking time. Well, still, according to local Peking time, it's still the 31st of March, year 2026. But it's approaching the 1st of April, year 2026. But yeah, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another live stream. Well, I initially I planned to go live again, during during the day, but since I was involuntarily fasting and um, worried that I might stutter a lot more than usual. So I fortunately I received some help from my adopted brothers here in China. So, but still, the I consider it a a a, a defeat as a man having to rely upon others just to stay alive, just to continue to exist, just to be able to keep my belly fed. It is certainly humiliating, to say the least. But at least I still have the strength and the composure to make another video to reflect upon past events and my current self, and planning a little bit ahead. I beg your pardon, for the stupid light. Maybe I should just switch on the other light. Just bear with me and give me a sec. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So, of course, my adopted brothers, they, I don't suppose they gave me a helping hand out of compassion, since they owe me, and they still kind of owe me some favors, which should send you clear message, clear a clear indication that, unfortunately, regardless of whether they are your family, your parents, your brothers, sisters, siblings, spouses, whatever, human relationships revolves around transactions. And I also dare to say that even the relationship between us humans and God also also revolves around and uh, also depend on transactions. See, God did not create us without a clear motive, or without some sort of um, some sort of you know expectations, to gain something from us, even if it's something non-physical, something intangible. Since a feeling of content, a feeling of satisfaction, they are also considered, or I should say, they also count as a sort of, return, or a favor, or some sort of, um, yields or fruits that you stand to gain as a result of your hard work and, prior plans, prior, how should I put it, suffering a bit of brain fog, right now, but just bear this in mind, that people don't love you unconditionally. Even God himself, you know, does not seem to love us, or the people he choose unconditionally. And like I mentioned previously, in numerous videos on numerous occasions, weaponize apathy that can spare you from a lot of pain, a lot of disappointments, and occasions of depression, and frustrations with people. Just especially nowadays, you don't really stand to gain much from your hard work, even if you have put in your whole heart, your blood, your sweat and blood into you know a mission, or even your job, your your mission, your dedication to achieving something. You don't necessarily aim or reap the benefits, or returns as a result of your hard work, no matter how much of hard work you believe you have put in. you know into or onto certain tasks or certain pe- people, and it may sound, it may sound, logically flawed or counterintuitive, but I make such statements. I make such statement. I make statement based on pure facts, or at least based on you know real personal experience so far I've had with my shitty life, with my pathetic life. You know, though I never intend to remain pathetic, as you can see that I'm still trying to change, trying to improve my life for better, no matter the cost, even if that cost, my life, to make myself feel less pathetic, less helpless. I believe I'm willing to die, for for pull myself out of this mess, though not necessarily committing suicide. Regardless, committing, the thoughts of suicide have crossed my mind numerous times on countless occasions, and blah blah blah. Since my current my current stance, my current circumstance is truly perilous, truly precarious and treacherous, if not totally helpless, to say the least. Um, and yeah, and I beg your pardon for dragging, the introduction for a little bit too long. But here, here comes some more advice, though not necessarily financial advice or professional recommendations. A disclaimer here, but do take heart that nowadays it it just takes a lot a lot more hard work than it used to just get by, to just make a somewhat adequate standard of living, not to mention a decent a decent standard of, and and um well, all jokes aside, perhaps nowadays it's not a good idea, to just to start a business just to just for the sake of pretending to be cool, or to look cool, or to or just for the sake of e- with your attempted escape from matrix. So blah blah blah, and just to from your toxic um boss, and your hostile working environment, workplace. Maybe You just try to live it, or to take it and cope with your life day by day, one day at a time, without burdening yourself too much by planning too far ahead. But still, I still at least consider myself at least somewhat fortunate that I currently don't have um, any debt, or at oh, at least I don't have mortgages or car, uh, or any vehicle payments and blah blah blah, all those nasty shite that that you know that troubles you know most the vast majority of NPC in this world. You know, at least in that sense, to a certain extent, I am a free man, though not necessarily. You know, though not necessarily a a and exceptionally powerful man, blah blah blah. But yeah, just whatever you do, seek to aim and maintain and increase your level of power that you can wield upon your associates or friends or families, and possibly also your enemies. Against your enemies, against the people, against people in particular, NPCs, trolls, blah blah blah, that you hate, that never cease to cause you trouble, disappointments, blah blah blah. Just do whatever you can, not just to make money, but also to gain power. Since money, more or less, a wider range of of choices, of selections, in terms of where you can choose to relocate to, or where you can you know do start and do your business, blah blah blah. At least it money, at least having money beats having no money. um and yes, just, and if you in case you get skeptical, just take a good look at me, take a good look at my previous videos and my posts, and my current outlook, my current outlook in general about life overall. you know and speaking of money, now I begin to to come to a clear realization that it costs a lot more, you know, to suffer from impoverishment, to suffer from uh, um, destitution, than having loads of money to spare. When you have, when you run out of money, you basically are basically cooked. You are basically cooked toast. you know, you know, um, during the past several weeks, I pretty much had no meal, though yes, but thanks to I got from my adopted old man and my adopted siblings. They did um, spare they did spare me some food, mostly just instant ramen. But one of my brothers gave me some cash, though not much. Nevertheless, I used it to buy myself some proper meals, some rice, some shiitake and mushroom and tofu, hot pot, and rice. Before I initiate this live stream, but I can't, you know, you know, guarantee own food safety. You know, afterwards. But still, I will do my best to see how much longer I can keep this up. And I beg your pardon. Um, yeah, it's nowadays as a man you are pretty much completely on your own, and you certainly shouldn't count on others to yourselves to get you out of trouble, unless they have invested sort of some sort of stakes in you before. Then maybe maybe they might just give you a helping hand or two, uh, uh occasionally or once in a while, but don't count on them. Don't Yeah, as a matter of fact, don't count on 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 anybody else to save your sorry ass, no matter who they are. Say your old man, your parents. No matter how much they claim they love you, or no matter how much they claim they care about you, no matter how much they claim they sympathize with you. And this can also apply to your viewers, to even to your supporters, in case you also happen to be a YouTuber like I. you know um in other words um in other words expect more from yourselves, but oftentimes cut others as much slack as you can spare. And that's certainly not not you know a suggestion telling you to be nice, to be a not nice guy. Not at all. On the contrary, wield as much um you know power. Sometimes even if it falls in the range of witchcraft, though I'm not necessarily encouraging you to practice witchcraft or or say or resort to illegal to control people's minds. But it's just just in case, just in case, just in case you run into a desperate and perilous situation similar to mine, it may come in handy. You will you will find that it will come in handy once you run into a desperate and helpless circumstance similar to the one I am currently living. And what else? Um, yeah, and yeah, so you know, maybe you can see me as a variant of hiding in my room, and the truth is, I do often hide in my room, unless say unless I absolutely have to step out of of my grandma's flat and buy food, or having to go somewhere, say overseas, blah blah blah. I usually just remain indoors, lest the those energy vampires, those NPCs, and those demons, those non-physical entities come to me and harvest my energy and my precious, my hard earned momentum and morale to remain far from weak. You know, but still, perhaps remaining far from weak still more or less serves as a cope with this harsh and hostile reality. You know, but aside from that, I see no absolutely no other alternatives to pull myself out of this you know shit situation or situation, whichever way you may call it. you know yeah, and now I have to figure out a way to um you know to return the to return the favor to my elder adopted brother, who generously uh, uh, donated some cash, you know, so that I can buy some food, some proper meals, some proper food. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I haven't actually made up my mind yet. Maybe I might give him, you know, a silver coin, a silver coin of mine. But still, I don't, you know, I beg your pardon. I um honestly, I kind of plan to title this video, to title this live stream, you know quote unquote, I failed as a man, but I'm still fighting. But instead, since I haven't um as a matter of fact, I haven't you know I haven't chosen to opt out from this shitty life by committing suicide yet. And also, more important, still I'm still broadcasting my my opinions, my thoughts and ideas to the rest of the world. Um, you know, while maintaining my composure, while you know not making a big fool of myself. You know, hence I I decided otherwise. I chose to name this live stream. You know, suffered a crippling defeat, but still fighting instead. What's up, Seeker? I won't say that I'm doing well, but at least I'm still in one piece and not yet. Though I can't say the same, for the future months or blah blah blah. To fail as a man, I had to read upon other men so that so that I don't starve to death. Yeah, that that I hope I clarify my point to you. In response to the question, how did I fail as a man? You know, at least for the past, over the past several years, um, despite losing my and my grandma in a consecutive 3 years, at least I was able to to maintain you know at least a large degree of self-sufficiency. I make money. I pay for my own food, and most, not all bills. Sometimes gave me to to help with the electricity bills and the phone the landline the phone bill slash the internet bill. But nowadays I have largely lost that ability. I should say I have lost the 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 such of status of self-sufficiency. I can't nowadays I struggle. I struggle with feeding myself, with making enough money to put food on the table to keep my belly fed. So go figure what it exactly means to fail as a man. Fortunately, I don't I am not married or or in any relationship of cohabitation. I just have to worry about making enough money to pay for my own living expenses and sometimes my own long distance travels to say to Hong Kong, parts of the world. Well, if God willing, though I don't, at least I seriously don't expect my own financial situation to improve. Um, in the next couple of months, at least. Though I certainly, I certainly hope for the best for myself and for the people I care about. You know, life just keeps throwing life. God or Satan just keeps throwing horrifying horror, overwhelming terror, dehuman torture, and unscrupulous, humiliating, rapist abuse at at my way. And I have utterly no say, you know, in when and how God or Satan or life itself throws at me nasty shite, and also while you try to visualize or try to you know um you know piece piece all together those chunks of information I just now disseminated. Also consider this: what kind of God is he when he let his people starve, and that's how should I put precisely the reason why though I'm not saying I have stopped believing in God, Jesus Christ. Like I said, in a video I made around 2 years ago, I've said so loud and clear that I have stopped simping for life and God, and that means that I have stopped viewing Him as all loving, all caring, you know, at least my life experience has shattered the perfect image or the perfect reputation of God, that you know the mainstream churches and pastors you know trying so hard to to portray and maintain. At least they instilled at least some lies and delusions and misinformation into our minds. You know, aka they are more or less preaching some false hopes. More or less. Saying that false hopes can come in a variety of ways or forms. Sayings like just stay pop just stay um just stay positive, bro. Just keep your head up, bro. Just hit the gym, every day, bro. Just go hook up with nice girls, bro. Just things get better, bro. Blah blah blah. All those nonsense, all those photos no longer resonate with me. I have largely forfeited. Those. I have pretty much flushed those right. Down the toilet. I pretty much I flushed pretty much all those nonsense, all those shite down the toilet. Down the toilet. Yeah. Um what else? Yeah. I just wish that I can, or I should say I just wish I have the strength, to to make a to make a funny video cursing God, cursing Jesus, for the amount for the amount of overwhelming horror, terrifying terror, and unscrupulous rapist humiliating abuse he threw at me and will throw at me in the future. I just wish, you know you can't possibly imagine, how much I wish I could just, you know make a video like that, vocalizing my real time true thoughts, true authentic authentic curses, you know at God, in my personal monologue. But unfortunately, I haven't, or I should say, um I don't consider, myself that articulate or vulgar, to make such a videos, to make such type of videos, since I, you know most of the times, I just, tend tend to keep those shite strictly business, strictly to myself on most occasions. Unless, unless, I snap, unless, how should I put it? Unless, you know, unless, those thoughts crushed me very horribly, then I might be able, to to make a video featuring strong vulgar languages, strong profanities, cursing God, say that God, you are just a vicious twat. You are a freaking asshole. You are the biggest asshole. You are the most vicious, selfish, egotistic asshole that has ever existed throughout the entirety of space and time, since you created each and every human being without their consent, without their prior approval, without asking them whether they consented to to come to this world full of suffering, full of injustices, full of wickedness, full of iniquity, in biblical terms, full of, difference, to authentic thoughts, to authentic expressions of authenticity and brutal truths. And God, you are just a freaking asshole. You that keeps giving giving innocent and, or I should say, that keeps giving ordinary people a second, even a third asshole. And over the several weeks, I have to make this straight. I have to clarify with you that you have tortured me, you have abused me, to your maximal ability. And you first of all, you stripped me of my prepaid phone number. Second, you deprived me of food for nearly 3 weeks, that I had to resort to some drastic measures. I had to, choose some snacks that had way way gone expired beyond their shelf life. Just ask yourself, you freaking twat, God, Jesus Christ, and specifically Jesus, old man, Yahweh, you are a freaking piece of shit for letting so many others suffer hunger, from loneliness, from from losing loved ones, from having to endure, say, miscarriage of justice, and blah blah blah. You are just a piece of freaking egotistical and selfish twat. And I don't care if you are about to kill me tonight. If you are truly ready, just put me out of my freaking misery, dear God, Jesus Christ. What else? Seriously, God, I have run out of, I pretty much run out of words to describe you as such an egotistical and unscrupulous abuser, twat, throughout the entirety of space and time that you created yourself. And, just, try to imagine your own stupidity by having to leave your throne to to take to receive birth as Jesus Christ from Virgin Mary, from Virgin Mary, and get crucified on the cross and shed your sacred blood to wash away the sins of the sinful people you created. It is just freaking stupid. Yes, you can say God is both wise and stupid, since the Bible itself has said so. The 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 weakness of God is stronger than the weakness of God is stronger than men, and the the foolishness of God is wiser than men. You have said so yourself through Saint Paul in the in his epistles, in his in the epistles of the Corinthians, you know, written by Saint Paul, inspired by yourself. Yes, I do believe that, but I don't believe that you are all loving and kind. You just enjoy torturing and abusing people for fun. Just you can watch the horror show just so that you can enjoy watching the horror show along with Satan yourself. What else? I beg your pardon. Yeah, it is just freaking shit, man. I just don't know